Good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant A.J. Crizel. I am currently the acting troop commander for Troop J, Lancaster and Chester counties. To my right is District Attorney Craig Stebbin. To my left is Trooper Chadwick Roberts. He is the lead investigator for this homicide investigation. And behind him is Sergeant Aaron McGee. He's the station commander at Ephrata. I have a prepared statement I'll read, and then I'll turn it over to District Attorney Craig Stebbin. On Friday, August 12th at approximately 11 p.m., the Pennsylvania State Police Troop J Ephrata Station responded to 2666 North Colebrook Road in Raffo Township, Lancaster County, for a reported shooting incident. The victim, Allison Walsh, was transported from the scene to Hershey Medical Center, where she was pronounced deceased by Dauphin County Coroner's Office. While at Hershey Medical Center, an emergency medical procedure was conducted on Allison Walsh, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, in an effort to save her unborn child. The newborn child, Alexandria Marie, was also pronounced deceased by the Dauphin County's Coroner's Office. Due to the complexity and nature of the investigation, Troop J's major case team was activated. Initial reports received from the scene suggested that the shooting was accidental in nature. The investigation revealed that Allison Walsh suffered one gunshot wound to the left temple. On Wednesday, August 17th, the Dauphin County Coroner's Office conducted an autopsy on Allison Walsh with forensic pathologist Dr. Wayne Ross. Dr. Ross ruled the cause of death as a gunshot wound to the head and manner of death a homicide. After an exhaustive investigation to include collection of physical evidence and numerous interviews, the Lancaster County District Attorney Craig Stebbin approved criminal charges on Thursday, August 18th, against Matthew Scott Becker of Manheim, Pennsylvania. Becker was arraigned late Thursday night before Magisterial District Judge Rodney Hartman on one count of criminal homicide and one count of criminal homicide of an unborn child. At the preliminary arraignment, bail was denied, and Becker was remanded to Lancaster County Prison. I'll turn it over to District Attorney Craig Stebbin. Thanks.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. The first thing I want to say is I want to commend the Pennsylvania State Police for their work in this case. They've basically been working around the clock since it happened. Called our office right from the beginning, and it's been a difficult case for them. I'm sure personally to work on it, and professionally, obviously there were some unique challenges here. So I want to commend them. Chad Roberts and Bob Courtwright were the lead investigators in this, and have worked very closely with our office. But as always, the state police do a professional job, and they did it here as well. Obviously there's more work to be done, and Mr. Becker is presumed innocent of the charges until proven guilty, and we intend to do that. He's charged one count of criminal homicide and criminal homicide of an unborn child as well, and he'll have to face the consequences for that. But I want to give you a little bit of background about the case that I can give you, and then at the end I'll take any questions and answer what I can. Some things you ask I may not know, some things I may not be able to comment on. But background-wise, this home, Mr. Becker and the victim lived together. She was 7.5 months pregnant. They lived in one room of his parents' house. Apparently there wasn't a lot of room in there. It wasn't a particularly large room, and that's where they stayed. On the night in question, she wanted to go to bed, had gotten in bed, and shortly after that, Mr. Becker went across the other side of the room, picked up his newly purchased handgun, loaded it, cocked the slide back, walked towards her, pointed the weapon at her head, and shot her in the head. He did not call 911, which of course stands out to us and anybody listening to the facts of this case. She died from the gunshot wound, and as you heard, they tried to save the infant, who, from what I understand, lived for 6 or 7 minutes and died from asphyxia. Obviously died because not directly from the gunshot wound with a bullet to the baby, but did die from it as a result of the gunshot wound. The 911 was not actually called until Mr. Becker's parents came home. There was no one else home at the time, and they came home, and once they found out what was going on, did call 911, and I believe the mother initiated life-saving attempts, which were obviously unsuccessful. So that's really the only reason that the 911 was called at all. As you saw, the defendant has given numerous accounts of what took place that are not only inconsistent with each other, but various things that he says quite impossible, and that'll come out in court, as you see in the affidavit. His first version, that he was cleaning this gun, which he had just purchased a few hours beforehand. There were no cleaning supplies out at the scene. He later actually admitted that he wasn't cleaning the gun. The second version was that he had loaded it, but then had dropped the magazine out of it when he pulled the trigger, causing the fatal wound to her. Subsequent to that, and telling that to the police went to Trop Gun Shop and got an identical weapon, and talking to them found out that that would be impossible. It has what's called a magazine safety. The gun cannot fire, you cannot pull the trigger unless there's a magazine in there. And his version, of course, to the police was that the magazine was out, and the magazine was in fact found, I believe, on the floor. It was not in the weapon when it was recovered. So that was impossible. The state police confronted him with that information. He changed it to his version of the events to that it was a blur and he had trouble remembering. And then after some time gave a different version of events, that he had dropped the magazine out of it, but then had put it back in to get the hammer down, and of course, pulling the trigger. And there's only one bullet fired here, and it ends up hitting her in the left temple, just about one of the only spots that's going to cause a fatal injury to anybody from a .22 caliber handgun, unless it's some, as long as there's medical treatment. I defer that to the experts, but obviously that's the highest percentage chance that you're going to cause a fatal wound, and that's where he claims that the bullet accidentally went. He gave different other inconsistencies in his statement that you have in the affidavit, as well as things that will come out later. I think what's significant to us, and you also could read from the public record, that there's a history of him menacing her with a firearm. This wasn't something that was unusual based on his history with her and another prior girlfriend, that he had pointed handguns at them. Allison had conveyed to friends and family that she was scared of Mr. Becker, and she had reason to be, that he was not happy about the pregnancy, did not want to have the baby, that she was considering moving out and looking for a way to get out of the relationship, and it's unfortunate that she wasn't able to do that. He also said things to her, that he was disgusted with her appearance, that she was fat as pregnant, and obviously he's not going to be tried, knowing is on trial, he's not being charged with being a jerk, but those things are relevant to providing background and motive in this case, and that's the only reason that they're in there. It's not just for people to conclude he has bad character, be that as it may. There's additional problems, as I said, with different parts of the case. So in essence, what we've got is him claiming ultimately that it was an accident, but with looking at all the facts of this in consultation with the state police, we believe we're more than comfortable for letting a jury decide whether this was in fact an accident of whichever version of events you want to take from him, or in combination with the motives that he had, the fact that he had menaced people with a gun, and the fact that he wasn't even novice. This guy was a guy that knew how to handle handguns. And it'll be up to them to decide whether it was an accident and this was some type of magic bullet that happens to just hit her in the left temple out of coincidence, or whether it was a situation where he had multiple motives to be angry with her, was walking towards her with a loaded firearm, aimed it at her head, and pulled the trigger, just as he admitted that he intentionally pulled the trigger. He shot a young mother in the head, knowing that she had a baby and carried a life inside of her. He still didn't call 911. Those facts stand out to us. I'm sure it'll stand out to the community. And what's more important is we hope down the line it will stand out to the jury of his peers that's going to decide his fate. Obviously, they both died. I would just conclude by saying a lot of us in law enforcement take the job to protect the innocent, to protect the vulnerable. You don't get more innocent than than the life that was lost, that never had a chance to live inside Allison Walsh. And he's going to have to face justice for this and for the death of both of them. So it's a beyond reprehensible. It's a terribly disgusting case to think about, and I want to again commend the police for their work and offer my condolences to Allison's family. There's nothing we can do to bring these lives back, but we're going to move forward and make sure that justice is done in this case. So those are my remarks. I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Did you ever file any charges against him previously for any of the...
No.
So there was nothing formally?
No.
And the baby was his, right?
Well, we'll do tests on that. Both parties are, I mean, she said it was his baby. He's saying that it's his baby. We'll make sure, but the evidence we have, yes.
And what was the time frame from when he shot her to when the parents got home? Just a couple of minutes, is that right?
Well, his statement to the police was that it was a couple of minutes. There was no other eyewitnesses there. That's going to be for a jury to decide as to whether it was a couple minutes or whether it was much longer.
Do you think it was much longer?
All I can tell you at this point in time is we'll talk about that in the trial.
Once again, your reaction is such a crime.
You know, I mean, my reaction's really not as important. What's important is we bring him to justice for killing a baby and a young mother. It's reprehensible, and I mean, I think my reaction's going to be the same as anybody's. Obviously, you know, the EMTs, I always think about those guys as first responders that go out there and what they have to deal with, and you know, my hat's off to them for situations like this, and the state police who are out there on the front lines working to make sure our communities are safe. So,
do you know how many guns were in the residence? Were they all confiscated, or was just the single gun that was taken?
We confiscated everything. The single gun was identified by him as the weapon that caused death, but we took all the guns.
Do you have any idea how many there were?
I'm going to say 8 to 10 in that room.
Okay.
How long were they dating each other?
I think it was November of last year.
So less than a year then, I guess.
That's the information that we have. Yeah.
Could this be a death penalty case?
It could. Multiple victims, age of 1. Yes. I haven't made that decision. We'll look at all the facts. We'll sit down with the state police and look at the law. I mean, the main thing today is the arrest. We'll worry about the death penalty a little bit later. But yes, it's a consideration. Anything else?
Were the police called at all? I mean, in the affidavit it says that he shot her with an air pellet gun numerous times, made her cry.
No, that was the air pellet gun would have been the prior girlfriend.
Prior girlfriend. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah. No, it's all right. Yeah, no, there's a lot of information there, and it's a lot to digest, and some of the incidents might well seem to blur, and that's why it's in there, because seemed to be with him a pattern of pointing weapons at the females he's involved with, which is, you know, reprehensible in and of itself. But to have it result in this is it's just terrible.
Was it key that a lot of these friends, family members of Allison's that came forward and sort of gave some information as to, hey, this has happened in the past, she's told us? I mean, was that a key part in being able to bring charges forward?
Certainly, it's, you know, that's going to be what we'll be presenting to a jury and ask them to consider. I mean, it's not just this incident doesn't take place in isolation. You look at the background. Was there a motive? Did he have a reason for this? And that's why we put him in the affidavit, that there are substantial motives. There were substantial issues, both with him menacing people with firearms, including his ultimate victim, as well as the issues that they had in their relationship that would have been coming to a head, obviously, with her making statements of her looking to leave and the baby to be born, you know, in the near future. So his life would have been changing, and from what we have and what the police have uncovered in the public record that he wasn't happy about the changes that were going to come.
One line in here, he admitted to pulling the trigger and killing Allison Marie Walsh. So he eventually reneged on those prior stories, just to be crystal clear here, and then told police that he did it?
Well, no, he admitted.
Help clear up that.
He did tell police that he did it. What he told police was that it was basically whatever version you want to pick. He did not admit that he intentionally killed her and the baby. What he admitted is that he was walking towards her, that he would have pointed the gun at her, and he intentionally pulled the trigger. So, and that's one of the reasons that we have difficulty believing that this was an accident, I mean, I don't need to articulate how much sense that lacks, especially with somebody who knows how to handle firearms as he did and was an owner of multiple firearms. And depending on which version you believe or you want to take from him, either he has the magazine out of the gun, which would mean the trigger wouldn't be able to fire, or he's pointing a gun and pulling the trigger of a gun that has a magazine in it a couple feet away from the girlfriend who he has all numerous reasons, motives to get rid of. And so I hope that clarifies your
He
question.
intentionally pulled the trigger but did not intend to, he says, shoot his
That would
girlfriend.
be a fair way of characterizing whichever version he's giving to us. Okay? Well, thank you all very much. Yeah,
Do you have any photographs of him?
I do not, and I think the state police have a policy that they cannot give out a photograph. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so they would if they could, but the policy is they according to state police, they cannot do that.
To your knowledge, will he be at LCP for the day?
Well, he'll be at LCP. Yes, I mean there's no bail for these offenses, so
Thank you.
that's correct. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.
One final question.
Yeah.
The charge of death of onboard child. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys kind of went about going that as the charge. You're obviously dealing with a child in the womb here. Talk to me a little bit how you kind of came to that as one of the charges you're going to file to him.
Well, we're gonna have to take some more look at that. It's fortunately not a charge that we have to deal with very often, in this case, we think it applies at this point in time. Although there'll be an issue that we'll have to look at based on the fact that the baby lived for 6 minutes. I mean, my feeling on it is this was the intent of the statute would be that you're killing a baby in the womb, which is what resulted here. I'm not sure that the surgical removal in a desperate attempt to save her life will give you an exception. If it does, then we would just simply change the charge to criminal homicide. But I think that the intent of the legislature would be to charge people who kill mothers carrying babies, and that's exactly what he did here, and he killed both as a result. So it's a very disturbing, what's the most disturbing charge that we can possibly deal with, and whatever label you want to put on it here, we're going to have to deal with it as the case proceeds. Okay?
Could I just get you to hop in front of the microphone and say and spell your name again?
Sure.
Just so we have that on tape.
AJ, J, Krizel, Krawczel.
And your position one more time.
I'm the acting troop commander for Troop J.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.